I'm in contact with my dad, and he's a lovely gentleman, and we're close in a very specific way. But I didn't grow up with him. So there were other males that came in and out of my life as a kid. One dominant one that wasn't really particularly pleasant man. So the idea of having a positive male experience, and I'm now father myself to girls, so that really fascinated me, really. I'm just thinking about what that means. And I think I've spent a lot of time, over the last, since my girls started growing up, thinking about what a male role model does and should. And I think when you see your wife or partner giving birth and having kids in that bond, that happens when they carry a child and all of that stuff. I remember right way back wondering what the male bond is and how did that develop. So yeah, it's interesting, but he doesn't easily talk about it. And I think it's a Jewish thing, slightly to talk about things that are traumatic. Sometimes some people, there's an unspoken, you don't talk about it. And I think even in terms of not going back to things like the Holocaust, the Shola, or anything like that, family history, even more recent family history. And there's been quite a lot of trauma on my dad's side, isn't really talked about. And I think in some way that's something that I'm aware of it and I know of it, but you can't push on to talk about it. So there's always been a slight skirting around of things.
I think that's quite interesting, really.
And although when I first saw him, he looked like quite a nice, gentle sort of middle-aged, ordinary guy. He's taller than me. He was stockier than me. He was bald, and I remember that. And we went for lunch, I think. But I remember something I grew is looking at his hands when we were sat down at a restaurant, and he had exactly the same sort of mark, like skin markings around his knuckles. And I just found that really odd, because I sort of looked at his hands and thought, but they're not my hands, actually. And then I could sort of see things that my mom and I were referring to, and that I did have similar mannerisms, I think, at the time. I had lots of piercings and purple hair, so to him it might have been quite shocking, but to me, looking the other way, I could see it, but it was fine. We didn't go into any deep discussions about what had happened, other than he said, "Sorry you couldn't be there," all those sorts of things. And he asked about Mum, and I think he bought her a pot plant, something. But yeah, I do regret the opportunity to... I just wonder what would have happened if you grew up in a really happy, healthy... We all make mistakes, right? But I hope my kids grow up until they grow up. Relatively happy home. And I wonder what that would be like. To have that as your foundation. I think of my foundation as being after my childhood, that I sort of had to build it as an adult rather than a child.
Do you know what I mean?